The woman.
Yes.
It's cold.
I love that. You guys hear that? The weather is like a menopausal woman.
I think I agree.
Yes. So, but it's better now than it was on Sunday.
Oh, I don't.
Sunday, we made a birthday party on Sunday for my son. We weren't sure if we're gonna, first of all, it was so hot to be outside, like so stifling humid, and then like the, raining, and
Yeah.
it was kind of like, yeah, a menopausal woman. I like that. It's like, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's just.
Okay, so a couple things. First of all, I just want to give like a tremendous amount of gratitude to Angie and Ellen, who are here, for putting together the most incredible Canasta social, hopefully the first, I want to say annual, but maybe it'll be more than annual, who knows? But, it was, I wasn't able to be there for the event because we had a birthday party at home, but from what I heard, it was such a success. And you guys are just such paradigms of humility and leadership and strength and seeing what you could do and just like, move out of my way. You had this vision. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, that's the social, no one's gonna come. I mean, how many people were there?
A lot.
Over 60.
Nice.
Unbelievable. So thank you so much. What tremendous, like two ladies coming together to say, I want to do something really good for L'chaim, and they raised close to $4,000. Talk about like the power of an idea, the power of, there's this quote about ideas, like an idea without a deadline is just a dream. Is that how it goes? Yeah. Or a dream without a dream with a deadline is an idea, right? So you guys had this dream and you really brought it to fruition. So thank you so much.
$4,000 deserves 2 claps.
Thank you.
That's
really.
huge.
If anybody ever has like a good idea or something that,
Give it to you. Yeah, thank you. We actually have, so I love that. So you should just know, let's share a little bit with everyone. So Ellen and Angie came with there were like 9 or 10 of us from Chicago that went to this leadership fellowship, that's a mouthful. This fellowship in New Jersey 2-3 weeks ago. And Gail and Dana and many of us were there. And we did have some time where we brainstormed ideas. We're not short of ideas, right? We're short of like, actually creating the space to move them forward. So I was told to park my ideas in a parking lot. I was told that very strongly because I'm an idea person. But sometimes you have to, just like kind of be with it and carry it through in the proper way. So I learned a lot from watching you guys do this. You did it perfect. So we thank you, Julie. Thank you, board. Thank you, Marcy, Laura, whoever's making these. And Laura Khan for getting the notebooks. We have notebooks for our newcomers. There are some new people, not so many here today, but are there new people? Because when you're new to L'chaim classes, we give you these Grow, Inspire, Connect notebooks. Aren't they so cute? Does anyone here need a notebook? Adrian like a notebook.
Yeah.
Anyone like it? Are you almost finished your notebook? You totally deserve it. 20 years of coming to L'chaim classes, you get a notebook. Do it now. You can be like Oprah and you get it. You get a notebook. We have a lot of notebooks, and we'd be so honored if you guys need one. If you want one, please.
I don't need it.
Not? Oh, okay. Are you like on FaceTime with somebody? Okay. Are we good? We're ready to get started? Are there any other notebooks? Anyone else want another notebook? Bring some new friends next time and they will get a notebook. So a couple exciting things, just some new things, because I won't share the same things again and again. So you guys already know that Elisa Ben Shalom is coming September 4th, Labor Day on Monday. You know about that, and hopefully you've gotten your tickets. But we just put out the details for the Day of Learning in August. So August 27th, we are going to be working from now. I mean, we've already started working on it. For weeks already. We're going to be working all summer to create the most incredible day just for you. Really, this is a gift for everyone that comes. Just a treat of nice women coming together, a beautiful meal together. It's in an outdoor space, the Heller Nature Center. And so indoors and outdoors, we're bringing in a keynote speaker from Denver. She's excellent, Rachel Goldbaum, who taught here one Tuesday. So you might have gotten a taste of her. She is amazing. So she's going to be doing a keynote and also a workshop. We have breakout sessions, yoga. Everyone's going to be doing a little bit of creativity, led by Laura Khan. Is that okay? I mean, yeah, you're going to lead it, right? So a small project, don't get scared off because it's not like you don't need to be an artist to do it. Everyone will walk away successful from that project. Yeah, so it's going to be just a day of coming together and kind of regrouping ourselves, our souls before the high holiday season hits us. So this is really just for Jewish women of all ages and stages. It's going to be from 10 till 4. It's on a Sunday. You have 2 months to like figure out your scheduling so that you could be there, make your carpools happen, and just come, and you will be so happy that you came. So that's something exciting that's coming up. And one more thing, just I want to give a shout out to Susie and to Dana. Who else was involved with making that happen? I'll share what it is. Was it who else? Oh, Doris. Okay, so some incredible movers and shakers in our community have brought the program of Violins of Hope to the L'Chaim Center. So they're coming, they're here all summer, they're going to synagogues and libraries and the JCCs all around town. And on August 15th, which is a Tuesday night, because we thought that would be a good time, a lot of people come spend Tuesday nights with us, Wheel of Wisdom. Tuesday night, August 15th, they're coming here. It's going to be a free program. And what's so special about this particular program, because everyone has a different flavor, this one we're having a son of a pastor who saved over 200 Jews in World War II, coming to share his story. What a righteous Gentile, the story of this incredible human being. His son is going to be coming and sharing that. So not only will we have like these violins to look at and to hear, we're going to have someone playing a violin. So very powerful experience. So see, you've seen it before? Okay. Okay, great. Amazing.
Oh, we saw it there.
That's a good question. Zoom.
Zoom. I was just curious for myself because I could be taking my kid to college then.
Yeah, it's a good question.
We'll have
Zoom.
to ask
I
them.
feel like so much of it will be experiential. Maybe we could Zoom his talk.
That is.
Okay, yeah.
We'll have
Or
to
maybe
check
we'll
with the
record it.
organization.
Maybe we'll just record it and share it, like the actual talk.
That would be great.
We'll see. Okay, but thank you. Melissa, maybe closer to the time, you'll just remind us about that. Okay, so exciting things are happening. And I also know that it's summertime and schedules are changing and some people are in and out. We will, for the most part, be consistently going through the summer with all of our regular classes. If anything changes, I'll let you know week by week, but we're gonna really try to just, it might be a little bit of a lower, smaller turnout, but we're gonna just keep going through it all.
Next Tuesday?
Next
Wednesday?
Tuesday, next Tuesday is 4th of July. I'm happy to come teach. I don't know what everyone's schedules are. Would anyone want to come and learn next Tuesday? Okay, yeah, okay,
Make a day off.
take it down. The problem is the week after that, I'm in Israel. So that's why I prefer to teach next Tuesday.
Barbecue at your house.
Barbecue at my house. That's good. The non-Americans will yeah, there will be class. Yeah, when I'm gone, I'll have us up. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so I'd like to dedicate this class in honor of a dear friend of ours whose child is right now in the hospital undergoing some treatment, and her name is Nava Bat Efrat. She should have a refuah shalema, a speedy and complete recovery in the merit of our learning. Okay, so last class, it was a whirlwind of a class. I probably should have broken it into two and really unpacked it a little bit more. I'm just going to do a little recap for those of you that were here. And then we're going to move on. We're going to move on to a little bit, going a little deeper into Alan Marinas' book, Climbing Jacob's Ladder. Okay. And I'd also like to leave a little bit more space, at least today. Some classes there's just too much, but I'd love to open it up and kind of like take a little bit more pause because we've been going through so many big concepts, and I think there should be some processing time. So hopefully we'll do that today. But just recapping a little bit of last week, do you guys even remember? It feels like so much has happened since last Tuesday. We spoke about intimacy, how the greatest thing a person can achieve in this world is oneness with another human being. and how that is not only in a marital relationship, it's a parent-child relationship, it's a friend-to-friend relationship, it's any real relationship that has vulnerability and closeness. Like that is, I mean, to achieve that is to achieve greatness, okay? And that's really all that we're doing. So I took you guys back to Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. I gave a few examples how God created them as one, then separated them into two, and then we have the work of coming back to being one, right? And that's really the paradigm of marriage is 1 + 1 = 1. That when you stand under the chuppah, the two half souls really fuse, and then the rest of your life's work is to really, really work at becoming this one entity, which is really hard. So yeah, it's like happily after, right? Happily ever after. It's like ... a lot of hard work, a lot of hard work. Okay, so we spoke about that a little bit. We spoke about ways of reaching that goal of intimacy. And if you guys want to just recap some of the things that we spoke about, the first example in the Torah, when God speaks about intimacy, he says, and he knew, okay? Vayida, and he knew his wife, and ... and they had a baby. So it has a euphemism, this knowing has a euphemism for sexual intimacy, but also just to be intimate with another person means you need to know them, you need to learn them, you need to put in the time, the effort, the devotion, dedication to understand another human being. That's what takes a relationship to like where it's supposed to be. So we spoke about knowing. Anyone else? Just throw out some other things that we spoke about last week. What are ways that we could reach this ultimate intimacy with another human being?
Spiritual.
Okay, so we spoke about the 4 different ways that you could, the four pathways, so to speak, towards intimacy. So we had physical, emotional, spiritual, and intellectual. Okay, good. So those are 4 pathways or 4 different kinds of intimacy. So anyone else, does anyone remember what we discussed last week? So there's the knowing. Let's just see what else.
I think we talked about clarity of soul and when your soul becomes obstructed.
Okay,
Obstructed.
okay, very good. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to dig into that today. Okay, so hold on to that. So she's talking about unblocking your soul so that you could have a clear window to see someone else. Okay, because we only see people through the lens that is us. We don't see someone, Chana, I don't see you as you are. I see you as I am. We all do that. We see each other the way we, perceive it, right? It doesn't mean that's the reality. Like when you go to a marriage therapist is actually very different to a regular therapist. A regular therapist is just seeing you. The marriage therapist is not seeing you or him. The marriage therapist is seeing the marriage. Right? There's his truth, there's her truth, and there is the truth. Okay? So we have to kind of clean that lens so we're not only seeing everything tainted through our limited perception. Okay, so we're gonna delve into that a little bit more today. And I'm just recapping my notes. Last week, we shared some other tools for really developing intimacy with another human being. One was time. Right, like just putting the time into getting to learn somebody. Like we spoke about the wine, like aging, how it gets better over time. I think we ended with that last week. That the blessing under the chuppah is always over a cup of wine. To say, stick with it. There's a gift at the end. If you make it through, like there's going to be something very, very special. Because to know someone is really to devote yourself to someone. What? What did you say? Grandchildren, that will be the gift. Yes. Okay, moving on. So any questions until now from last week? Okay, so I'm gonna I'm gonna be mainly focusing on what Susie just brought up, which is how to clean that perception, how to be able to see someone else's soul when, to be honest with you, in 2023, but probably for hundreds of years, and probably for thousands of years, we see we are spiritually blocked. Okay, so let's just pause over here for a second. This is something that we've spoken about in the Parsha class when we speak about the concept of Tuma and Tahara, okay? Purity and impurity, ritually pure, okay? What does that even mean to you, right? How does immersing in a mikveh change your spiritual status from impure to pure? How on earth? We can't see, it doesn't have anything to do with cleanliness, right? Before you go into a mikveh, you've never been so squeaky clean. You've just soaked in a bath, you've polished your nails, you've like, removed every hair or every, anything that's a blockage between you and the waters has been removed. So you've never been so clean. Why do you even need to go into the mikveh? And the answer is, this is sages thousands of years ago say, even if all the waters of the world would pass over a person, she or he would stay in the same ritually impure state as before a man or a woman would immerse in a body of a mikveh, a collection of waters, okay? So there's something that happens that we cannot see because we've been spending so much time talking about the soul, we don't see the soul, right? We know that we are a soul, we have a body. The body confuses us because the body is as we say, the scuba suit to the soul. Like it is the vessel that holds the soul, but there's a lot of confusion, okay? It's a feeling. Ooh.
I mean, I started crying
Sue
as I
feels
walked in.
her soul.
No, when I walked into the mikvah, because Allie took a bunch of us postmenopausal, and it just, I started crying when I was.
So
walking
that's
in.
really
It's just-
interesting because I started crying when I walked out.
Oh, well, then I won't go.
You can cry in and out.
Maybe it was walking out. No, I think it was going in.
Yeah, so it's a very,
Yeah.
last week I took two women to immerse. One goes every month and one was going for the very first time. The one that goes every month, it was like business as usual. Like it was interesting to see like the change, like the difference. She came, she went, thank you so much, and she left. And then the person that was coming for the first time, she was crying before, she was probably crying during, I gave her space. And when she left, she was crying. It was, and sometimes, Sue, you probably feel like, why am I even crying? Like, why am I so emotional?
No.
Okay, so because you're a little bit more like in touch, you understand that your soul is on fire and you're doing a mitzvah and your soul is connecting. But someone that doesn't necessarily know that, like I think I shared this example one time. I was landing in Israel with a group of ladies, and I get this text from someone else. She was probably a few rows back, and someone from my trip, and she said, I can't, she's like, she had just landed for the first time, and she said, I don't know why I'm crying.
Yeah, I did too the first time.
Right? That's like a physical representation of your soul, right? And by the way, the eyes are the window to the soul. It's one of the strongest portals in our physical guf, our body, that represents the soul. It's like the outlet. So when you cry, it's something is going on, physical, spiritual. Okay, very good. Okay, so the question I'm going to ask you that I'd love to hear is, what is holiness? What is holiness? Okay, in the book of Leviticus, it says, you shall be holy. This is, by the way, who are we trying to emulate? When it says you shall be holy, ... it usually says, because it says that many times in the Torah, the ... says, because Hashem, your God, is holy. And so much of what we're trying to do with perfecting our traits is becoming elevated and more godlike. Okay, you shall be holy. What's holiness? Have you ever met a spiritual goddess in the in aisle 4 of Jewel? Like, what does it even look like to be holy? I have some ideas because I feel that I know some holy people. So, I have a few friends that live in Israel. They're living on a different plain. They are just like Chaya Lester. Like, is she not holiness in a human being? Right? Rabbi Twersky. So some of us know what holiness might look like. Okay, do you know someone? Maybe it's your mother, a Holocaust survivor. There's a holiness, you know, that big Rabbanim, big great sages from previous, you know, from the previous generation, they would say, if you see someone with a number on their arm from the Holocaust, ask them for a blessing. They have a holiness inside them that we can never even, you know, begin to understand. I remember when my grandmother came to Portland, we brought her and we had a whole gathering with my community, like 150 people came to hear her speak. And she's like, why do they want to hear me speak? I'm like, Bobby, you're a holy woman, but you've seen what you've been through, your story. She just didn't even see it. And people were coming up to her and saying, please, can you give me a blessing? Now, there was one lady that came out to my grandmother asking her for a blessing to be blessed with a child. My grandmother, she's not, you know, I would say she's a God-fearing Jew, but she wasn't an observant Jew, and she was very taken by the fact that everyone was lining up to get blessings. I said, yeah, Bobby, you have it's so powerful and so well deserved. Yes.
So my great grandmother and my buddy Esther had 15 children. My buddy was the eldest of 15.
Wow.
Divided equally, 8 boys, well, almost equal, 8 boys and 7 girls.
Okay.
And because my buddy was the eldest, she was very dependent on my buddy. And when I met her, she was still alive. I was like 4 or 5, and she was sitting in a chair, and she was so holy, and she was so religious. You couldn't give her anything. So my mother said, give Bubby, Esther, an orange. And I remember holding it in the napkin, walking up to her, and she was in horror. She was big. And sitting there with her shaven and like this, and waiting for me. And I remember my heart, you know, like it was me. And then I went here, you know, and she took the orange and she peeled it, and she said something in Yiddish. I don't remember. She put her hand on my head.
Oh,
And that to me was
wow.
pure
Wow. What a gift that you have, that
Wow.
vision. Like from a child until now, you have a paradigm in your life for what you feel holiness is, but it's something to aspire to. So it's really important for everyone to have a vision of holiness that's relatable for them in their life. Because if I would spend the time to go around this entire room, probably all of us would have a different paradigm of what that bar above them is, what holiness could be. Your grandmother, that's a direct connection to your lineage, your heritage, who you are. It's such a powerful connection to have someone so close that you could, wow, you know, feel that connection to in an elevated way. But I'm wondering, does anyone else have a paradigm of holiness? It could be, like, it literally could be someone that, like, I'm thinking like a chutzpah type of person, like, you know, let's just take Golda Meir for a second. I do love Golda Meir. Golda Meir, she, you know, we say about her, she had holy chutzpah. There are many quotes about Golda. They say she was the only one in the Knesset with balls. Sorry. Okay. Sorry. She was like the only one.
It's a good year amongst women.
She was not an
We've
observant
ruined
woman.
Eve.
You get the point. But she was someone that saw what was needed to saw a void and was not afraid to go past whatever was going to, I mean, the stories about her, she went into the Arab country dressed as a Muslim head to toe. And do you guys know these stories? Like, and this is back in the day when she could have been killed. She was so fearless in her pursuit for truth and for Zionism that where would we be without her? So someone might hold her to be a holy person, right? Because there definitely is holiness in her mission, right? And yet it's not like her holiness is praying and lighting the Shabbat candles. I don't know.
She went to shul every, the reason I know she went to shul every Saturday is that when my parents were there in the 70s, they went to the same shul.
In Denver?
No, in Israel.
In Israel.
In
She
Israel.
lived in America for a while.
She was
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee. It's like our neighbors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but she went and my father was so taken when he realized, and they allowed them to be across the street. So in other words, she was walking home and my father was sort of walking like,
Wow.
because she was protected at that point. But the idea that he could even be that, and he considered her a holy woman, that he would
Wow.
even be that close to her.
Wow.
But she went to shul on Shabbos.
Okay, so good to know. My father's 75 years old. When he was a child in Montreal, Golda Meir came to Montreal, and he remembers, he has such a powerful memory of his whole school. He was in a Jewish school at that time, like the Jewish parent school. It was like a Yiddish school. And they all, like when she came, the whole school came to hear her, to sit in the auditorium. There were thousands of people, and it left such an impression on him of a woman of power, of using her power for good for the Jewish people. So that's also holiness. Okay, so there's so many different types of holiness. Does one more person want to share a paradigm
I
of?
just want to say, I just always feel like when I think of a couple of people that are in my head, you always think to yourself, wow, when I'm near this person or think of this person, I'm always thinking to myself, how can I be the best version of myself? Because when you're around those people, you're like, I've got to be better. I've got to do more. I've got to, and then you think to yourself, why on earth isn't everybody doing this? Why don't I do this anyway, right?
Do you ever find, Deborah, that when you're with someone like really powerful or someone that you really look up to, you like say something, you're like, why did I say that? Like, you're just like cringing, like, oh my gosh, I just said the stupidest thing ever, right? And you're like kicking yourself. Why did I say that in front of this elevated person, right? So it's because that makes us think, if we didn't have that person up a notch, we wouldn't care what we were saying. But it's so great to be in someone's presence where you're actually very, very meticulous with your words, thoughtful, sensitive, just like weighing yourself more. Imagine if we walked through life always weighing every
That's what I'm
step.
saying. Every single thing you would never do, you would never think about, you would never. So you would have all these nevers, and you would also have all of these possibilities that you never would think about also.
Okay, so I'm gonna read you guys a quote from one of the Musar giants. This is Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto from the 18th century. So he speaks about holiness, and this is his. I'm gonna just read you a little paragraph. The holy, those who constantly attach themselves to God. So very interesting, because sometimes, I'm just gonna pause in the quote, they're attaching themselves to God. Obviously, that's the paradigm. If we're trying to emulate God, we're trying to get there. But what I've just broke it down is find someone in your life that is holy, try to figure out for yourself, what does holiness look like walking around in this world to get us one step closer to attaching ourselves to God. So he says, it's attaching ourselves to God, and whose souls move about in the true notions of love and reverence for the Creator, are considered to be walking before God in the land of the living while they are in this world. The very person of this sort of human being is considered to be a tabernacle, a sanctuary, an altar. So you are literally a space where God wants to rest his presence. Okay, yes?
I wanted to shout out to, I feel like for everyone who knows Esty Deutsch,
Mm.
this is who I think of.
Oh,
Of
yeah.
holiness?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I love that. That's beautiful.
Mhm.
That's beautiful. So Esty Deutsch is a mentor of Dana, someone that she sees as a holy woman who's in this world in our generation, but a very elevated, majestic person that is always with so much dignity. And
Oh, yeah.
so that's like just having a connection in this world to someone that you can imagine is emulating God.
Mhm.
Yes, well,
She
so I'm
totally.
gonna take issue with you, not to denigrate Golda Meir. She was fabulous.
Oh,
And she slept on my husband's aunt's couch.
That's
when
so
she- She was more like Devorah, possibly.
Very
You wouldn't-
nice.
You wouldn't necessarily call her, I wouldn't call Golda Meir holy, I would call her a great woman and a leader, but when you think of holy, you think of some of the
Rabbi Landau or some of the rabbis that went into the prisons and.
Right.
mean,
The reason
it's a
that I
different-
used an example is because I just wanted to show that it's not only, holiness is not only look like the Alta Babi, right? You know,
Right.
piously praying over her candlesticks.
Right, but she was too much of a politician.
We won't talk about politics. I mean,
Really?
extreme example of someone that might not, for some people, they wouldn't say Golda Meir is holy. But what I'd like everyone to think about is what is holy to you? Sometimes holiness means action. That was Golda Meir. She wasn't a feminine type of personality at all. Some people can't relate to that.
Well, I'm not talking about her femininity or lack
Exactly.
of it, she was a leader.
She was a leader, but we call that holy chutzpah, meaning that's also, there's holiness within that as well. But I gave a very different example, so you see that holiness doesn't only look like something that might seem unattainable to you or to you. Holiness is found wherever you make space for holiness in your life, you will find it. Okay, you could find holiness even in the darkest places. There was holiness in Auschwitz. There was so much holiness. There was holiness in I don't know, in jails, there's holiness. There's holiness wherever you make space for it. Wherever you let God in is where you find him. Okay, so that really, it's not about the circumstances. The circumstances don't define if holiness could exist there. Okay, so did you want to share something?
No, I was just going to ask, so I wonder if some people are born with the ability to be more holy, or is it something that you learn and then other people actually make you, help you, elevate you? I'm just curious about that.
So what's it called? Nature versus nurture. If someone is born into a very holy, pious family, is that going to be the outcome?
No, not necessarily because of
No, because they're
personal-
nurtured.
but is
that
it, yeah, I'm just wondering if, I think we all, when you start from, like let's say Dalai Lama, you know, the little kid that becomes Dalai Lama, they teach him how to be holy. So if this has a lot to do with it, how we elevate.
So let me ask you, is holiness a trait?
I think it could be trait.
Exactly.
It's many traits.
It's a
It should be-
combination of all
it
of your
should be
traits.
there.
We have all the traits. We have jealousy, we have happiness, we have both flip sides. And if we balance our traits properly, the word for trait is midah, which means measure. If we have the right measure of all the qualities, that's what holiness is. Sometimes one trait is a little too extreme in one direction or the other, or too little or too much, and then you wouldn't say that person is a holy person, but we all have the same inborn traits. We're all like clay. We're like a mold of clay that we need to make something beautiful out of. But holiness is not, you're not born with holiness. But at the same time, every neshama, a soul, is completely holy. Completely holy. In fact, crazy that our sages tell us that no matter how much a person sins, the soul does not get tainted. The soul stays pure. And Hashem sees the soul just as it was before it sinned or after it sinned. So the soul is complete, it's godliness, right? Where we are born into this world, a part of the divine. So that's holiness. So we have holiness within us. That doesn't change. We always have that. But the character traits around us will make us a holy person. Okay, I don't know if that gives more perspective. Yeah, Judy.
Well, I think people are capable of acts of holiness.
Right.
That does not define them
Right.
necessarily as a holy person, and I think that's what where I'm making the distinction.
Okay, so let's just develop that a little further. Judy is saying people are potential of doing acts of holiness. Now, if you do acts of holiness all the time, does that make you a holy person? What do you guys think? So Doris?
Well, I'm thinking of Robertson Young Rice.
That's what I was thinking of, Doris.
Whoever that blessing from
Yeah.
God, you felt the
Oh,
divine
absolutely.
holiness. So your question was, I'm sorry.
If doing acts of holiness again and again and again Does that make you holy? So Doris says yes, and Lori, you're with, I think yes also.
I think it's something that has to be exercised.
Right,
the
so
more
if
that
you're
you
doing
do
it, if you're doing emotions, if you're putting that into action in this world, that means you're living an elevated spiritual life in the physical. And that really is that's our whole purpose, to elevate physicality, to connect the spiritual and the physical. Very hard to do. But if you're doing it, if you're living it, if you're actually using your physical body to do holy acts, I think that's a holy person. But I don't know for sure.
Doris does.
Doris knows?
Doris does.
Yeah.
I feel like you've lived that, Doris.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Thank you, that's very humbling, and thank you.
So
It's
beautiful.
when the
Does
inside
anyone?
matches the outside, right?
Mhm. Yeah, when the inside and the outside match, that's the most beautiful, what's that? Toho Kabaro, what's inside and outside are the same. That's like, that's what we all strive towards. Okay, so just going back to this quote over here. So where was I? So I'm gonna end his quote. He says that when a person is graced with holiness, a spirit from on high will descend upon you, and the Creator will dwell on you as he does all his holy ones. Okay, so let me just say that again. Okay, he says, when a person is graced with holiness, and that is something, you're not just graced with it without action. When you're doing holy acts, when you're graced with holiness, a spirit from on high, God literally lives with you. Right? And just going back to the beautiful verse in the Torah that says, when God says to us, build me a sanctuary, build me a tabernacle. And then it says, V'shachanti b'tocham, I will dwell within you, plural. Sanctuary, singular. You, as in you, numerous, plural. And it doesn't make sense, the language, when you look at the Hebrew, the way, what's the word, the etymology of the way that the sentence is put together, it almost seems like there's a mistake. But God knew that the sanctuaries are going to come and go. Tabernacle is going to be deconstructed. Holy temple is going to be constructed, destroyed, constructed, destroyed. We're still waiting for the third one. In the meantime, God is basically saying, build for me a sanctuary, and I will dwell within you and you and you. And when the whole world shut down for COVID and every single synagogue was locked and no one was praying within L'chaim was locked, everything was locked, every institution was closed down. We knew that God is still living within us. Judaism did not shut down. The Jewish home was pumping more than ever before, because it's never been about the institutions. The institutions are a crutch. We need them. Yes, we need them. They're important to keep their doors open and pay our electricity bills and have people coming, but really it's a crutch. It just gives us the inspiration to take it back home and to live it. That's where Judaism thrives, in the house and in the heart. V'shachanti b'tocham, I will dwell amongst you, Andy, and you, Gail, in your heart. That's wherever you go until 120, you are a walking beacon of godliness in this world. So as long as that's alive, those doors are open, you're good. Okay, so now I want to take this, I'm going to go back a little bit to a very interesting piece that I learned. Okay, so I want to connect it to what Susie said. You were talking about untainting the heart, okay? Because this is a problem. The problem of why is it so difficult to lead these elevated lives? Like Deborah was saying, like, why do we always put open our mouth and like out comes this thing, like, I can't believe I said what I said, okay? And me too, like, I'm always like, did I really say that? Like okay, hi Zoom people. I guess I am not an SD Deutsch. Ways to go. Sometimes you open your mouth and you're like, oh, did I really say that? Or you say something that you didn't mean to say, and it might have hurt someone inadvertently. We're so human, right? So let's take it back. Why is it we're having such a hard time presenting more as a soul than as a body?
Isn't it the continuous struggle with the Yetzer Hara?
Okay, good. So it's built in. It's not supposed to be easy. Excellent. So there's going to be choice. There's going to be struggle. There's going to be challenge, temptation. By the way, just about that, in Portland, we had it was a much more, every time we gave a class, I would say 40% of the room where it was not Jewish every time. And this is in the Jewish organization because, you know, Portland is 98% intermarriage rate, very, very high intermarriage. So people come and we just knew that many of the people sitting there were not Jewish or trying it out. We also were involved in helping to convert many, many people while we lived there for 7 years. There was so many Jews by choice that come out of, you know, these hippie places that are looking for something. And that was a huge part of our work there. Okay, so I want to just share my insight. Doris, you'll like this. At the end of the class, there's usually a couple of people that come forward and say, that was amazing. Where can I read more about that? Would you have more classes? Like, where can I come for Shabbos? Right? So my husband and I, after 7 years of experiencing this, we knew after, you know, it just took us about a year to figure out that the people that come forward and are like, sign me up, they're not Jewish. It was always like, if there were 2 people that came up at the end of the class, we'd start, you know, we'd have them for Shabbos, and then they'd be like, you know, my mother is Catholic, and you know, whatever, maybe they had some Jewish, there was something pushing them, maybe they had like a great grandparent that was Jewish or whatever it was, but they were coming in and really wanting to, there was something that was driving them, until I realized they don't have a Yetzer Hara the way that Jews have a Yetzer Hara. A Jewish Yetzer Hara, you just said it, a Jewish Yetzer Hara is gonna fight you against your growth. Okay, the Yetzer Hara, this evil inclination, does not want you to grow, does not want you to step into spirituality at all. So we'll put thoughts in your head, we'll put every obstacle in your way. Getting a Jew to come and spend Shabbat is so much harder than getting a non-Jew to come spend Shabbat, right? In fact, I don't know if I ever shared this with you guys, but when I was living in Portland, I got a call from the Mormon church. Yes. They called me up to say, could you come give a class on Shabbat? And I'm thinking, okay.
About Shabbat or
about
on?
Shabbat.
Oh, okay.
About Shabbat.
Okay.
I told them I'm happy to come, but I'm not going to go into the church part. We'll do it in the, you know, whatever, side room,
Right.
the social hall. And I thought to myself, no one's going to come. Like which Mormon is going to come here about Shabbat? There were over 200 seats, and there were standing room only.
Wow.
Okay, and I was shocked. And you know what I said? I was so shocked that when I got up there, I said, I can't even get 5 Jews to come here about Shabbat. Like, what? Like, I was so surprised. It's because they don't have that same fight against it. So you're right. That is part of it. There is the Yetzer Hara, and it's custom designed for every person to fight against the things like what you're so drawn towards in your spiritual soul. Your Yetzer Hara will fight like cat and dog. They're gonna fight against you achieving that. So that is definitely an element of why it's so hard.
So do Gentiles not have it?
They do, but their Yetzer Hara is not. It's not in this area. It's everyone has an evil inclination. Everyone has a positive inclination. It's not exactly like the pitchfork thing. It's like, I don't think that's a Jewish concept. I don't think that's what it is. But we have a positive pull. We have, and every human being has that. But it's custom designed. So if someone is taking a step towards Judaism, their Yetzer Hara is going to be fighting like crazy to keep them away from that, because they know it's just that's going to be good for them. So if you've ever felt that force within you, like you sign up for something, you're like, I'm going to go to that day of learning. I'm going to have a great new year. And then all of a sudden you're like, you know, I'd rather $72. You know, I could go out to eat and get my nails done. That's the Yetzer Hara. I mean, I've seen it so clearly. You know, I've taken a couple hundred women on these trips to Israel. I'll have a mom call me up and she's like signed up, and she'll say like, you know what, I really don't think it's the year. You know, my husband, you know, just got like, I don't know, whatever, all the reasons, you know, my husband this, my kid this, my dog, my this, no, there's so many reasons. I just don't think it's the right year. And in my mind, all I'm thinking is the Yetzer Hara is fighting so hard because it knows that if she actually takes that step forward, it might transform other things in her life. It might be so powerful. Okay, so there is that. Okay, let's go into this book now and let's see what this says. Okay, so this is some big stuff. Okay, so this is, I really want to attach it back to what we originally spoke about, like how to clean that connection, why it's so hard for the soul to shine. So there is a quote in the Torah that says to circumcise the heart. Have you ever heard that saying? Okay, so circumcise the foreskin of your heart. Okay, what does that mean? This is a quote in the Torah.
Peel
And-
something away.
Yeah, so yeah, pull back. It's to peel something away. Good. Like think about like what we circumcise the foreskin. We take something off.
You're exposing yourself.
Okay, so
Yeah.
there is that pulling back. So I'm just going to start over here with Rabbi Salanter. So Rabbi Salanter is the Musar giant from 1,000 years ago, who says that like studying Torah, right, is studying Torah, and he's the master of studying Musar. Okay, Musar is to better yourself. Now, someone asked him, what is more important, to study Torah or to study Musar? Okay, the actual question was that someone said, I only have an hour to study a day. I run a store, right? This is like 100 years ago, right? Think about back in Europe. People, they worked so hard, schlepping water carriers. He says, I have 1 hour a day. Should I study Torah or should I study Musar? What do you think he answered? He was quite a sharp one.
Musser.
So you would think the answer would be study Torah. Right? Torah is Torah Sinai, from Mount Sinai, from Moses, from God. Right? That's what I would think. Right? There's a mitzvah to study Torah. But actually he says, study Musar, and then you'll realize you have more than an hour to study Torah. Okay, isn't that brilliant? Okay, so I'm gonna just share a little bit of this pursuit. Hold on one second. Okay, because basically what he is saying, what Rabbi Yisrael Salanter is saying, by saying study Musar for an hour, you'll see you're gonna have another hour to study Torah. What he's saying is once you start delving into this, your priorities are gonna shift. Things are gonna start changing around you. Okay, so now we're going in, we wanna understand what this means to circumcise the foreskin of the heart. Okay, so the reason that the Torah says that is because our hearts become closed. Okay, what we were discussing before. We are so closed. If we were completely open, we wouldn't have such a huge struggle with the Yetzer Hara, because it would be so clear to us what we need to do and achieve. And we cannot absorb the inspiration. We can't absorb the godliness of this world, to see a sunrise or a sunset or the birth of a child or any miracle that, I mean, the fact that these 4 kids survived, what, 40 days in the Amazon rainforest, right? It's a miracle. If we lived with our eyes open to all the miracles, right, when I walked in, I was kind of preparing, but I was listening to you share that you had this incredible HP moment, a higher power moment with your kids and their flight and who they were sitting with. And if we lived with the reality of God being with us, right, it would be a completely different experience. But we had to coin the term HP, and we had to train people to even like open their eyes to see, because otherwise it's just all coincidence, right? Because our hearts have been closed. They've been locked and closed, and we can't absorb. Okay, so and this is called foreskin of the heart, and we could coin it as callousness. Okay, does that strike a bell for you? Callousness, like think about your kids, think about the younger generation. They're just not as motivated or inspired. Right, and there's almost like this callousness, meaning like it's hardened. There's like this hardening that's going on, and they're not allowing feelings to penetrate, and they're not allowing themselves to be soft or to have pity. I had this conversation with one of my teens this week that we did not agree on a certain topic. Okay, he thought a certain group was wrong. And I said, you know what, it's not about whether they're right or wrong. I want you to live with empathy for this group. Just exercise the muscle of empathy if we could train the younger generation to feel, then we're already doing good. It's not about right or wrong. It's about seeing another person and feeling that I don't understand them, but that's okay. I can still love them and respect them. I don't need to agree with them.
I just did a training for teaching on being non-biased and how important it is in teaching to be non-biased with other families and kids, because we need to like respect and empathize with why they feel that way. So pretty interesting.
So important. And the reason that we need to teach it, it shouldn't even be something that we need to teach. It should be such a natural thing. But we actually need to reteach it and to talk about it a lot because of this hardening of our hearts. This is just, it's always been, but I think it's even more now. Okay, so I just want to get through this before the end of the class. So I'm gonna just go all the way till the end over here. Okay, so the word heart is lev, and he says lev represents the heart. What it really represents is deeper feelings where the intellect and emotions blend. Okay, so the heart is the place, intellect and emotions are coming together. And this callousness, so we're going to call it timtum halev. Timtum is the Hebrew word for being stopped up.
It's a contraction.
It's a contraction, like timtum. So that's timtum.
Oh, is this a different
This is
word?
timtum. Timtum from the word tuma.
Oh,
Tuma,
okay.
impurity, and what we shared a couple weeks ago was impurity is a blockedness, a spiritual block. Meaning if your soul has a pipe, if there's a block in it, it's not flowing. So something as strange as immersing in the waters of the mikvah is supposed to unblock a certain area of your life. We're all tummy, by the way. We are all tummy because we don't have a red heifer. We don't, even if you keep yourself like away from being with dead bodies, which is the highest level of tumah, of coming into contact with the dead body, right? I was walking through the forest with my son last week and there was a small dead animal. And I said, oh, like whatever, I freaked out majorly. And then I'm like, let's go around it. And then I asked my son, did we become tummy because of it? So he knew the Gemara. So it talks about, so if you're outdoors, it's not going to make you tummy. The only thing that would make you tummy is if you actually come in contact with it, right? It's not like in a building, right? You're not in a closed with a roof. So it was outdoors. He's like, no, we walked around it, we carried on. But there was, that jolt, if you see a dead deer in the road, like you feel, right? So if you're walking and you see something, you're like, right, there is, because why, by the way, why is a dead body the highest form of impurity? Anyone know? The soul has left. The body itself was the vessel for the soul. And now there's no more potential there. So that's even why, just going to like why, some women will go to the mikveh every month after they get their period, is because what is the period? It's a touch of death. There was a potential for life, no longer comes, it sheds out, right? As a loss of life. It's a touch of a loss of life. And even that touch, that loss, the loss of potential for what could have been, that creates a blockage. Isn't that interesting? It's very, very mystical, very, very lofty, hard to because we can't see it. We don't, how do we, and we're all basically blocked spiritually. Okay, so I mean, everyone should come to the mikvah and take a dip. Because there is something, when you said you cried, I mean, there is this like opening of your soul that we can't describe, right? There is something holy. I just, maybe before Yom Kippur, we'll do another round. Whoever wants to come, whoever wants to come in, it's your own space and I don't come in with you. I teach you everything. I tell you whatever you need to know. And then you go in by yourself, you take, you dunk and you come out and you have the headspace of like turning, like you've just pressed like a spiritual reset button. It really is a powerful thing to do spiritually. Okay, so now let's go back here. So what is the source of this blockage? With every betrayal, slight, conflict, abuse, loss, the heart can become a bit more hardened and closed. As layer upon layer, the anger, the hatred builds up a wall of our inner core. This is how the ego attempts to protect us from the barbs of life. But ultimately, it is a strategy that must fail because people who never succeed in opening their hearts leave their sweetest self imprisoned behind that wall. But it's never too late to experience a circumcision of the heart. So calling this transition a circumcision lets us know that it is a kind of initiation. And that, like an actual circumcision, it can be a difficult experience. When the protective shell that we allow to grow up over our heart is cut or broken or smashed, it exposes the tenderness beneath, and that can be painful. Reminds me of that Rabbi Tversky analogy that I shared about the lobster shedding its skin, and it's vulnerable, and it's, it hides until it grows another skin because it's susceptible to all types of injuries from other predators, right? So there is that. So we are like that lobster. When we shed our skin, it's uncomfortable. It feels very vulnerable, right? Okay. So, so every thought, word, and act has some effect in either opening or closing the heart. Yes.
I would be curious one day if we could talk about, there's a lot of these things that I see, mikvah, touching dead body, has to do with hygiene. Washing our hands before we eat, netilat yadayim before, it all has to do with hygiene. Even eating dairy, eating meat, waiting some time before, eating dairy after meat, so because your stomach has to digest. So a lot of it, sometimes I feel that it's taught to us because maybe we're not, just different way of teaching us. So I would be curious to compare sometimes.
Okay, so
law and what is really hygiene.
So none of it has to do with hygiene. Okay, none of it has to do like none of the reasons, like even when we wash our hands before bread or in the morning, none of it is the reason for doing it, but it has also saved us
I was
throughout.
gonna say that.
Yeah, there's been
In
many
the
ways that we have.
Middle Ages,
Middle-
Jews were always accused of spreading it because they didn't get sick.
Right.
In the same
So
numbers,
it's
they were
also
always.
protected us.
It's protecting
It's
us.
protected, it has protected us during those dark times, because obviously it has to do with, it's a physical representation of a spiritual act. So, but it has nothing to do with cleanliness. That's a misconception. And that's why it has such a bad rep in the world. When people say, oh, you go to mikvah, that's so archaic. That's so, what, you think you're dirty? It has nothing to do with being dirty. It is a spiritual blockage that has so many misconceptions and has such a bad rep. Okay, people think that it means dirty. It's not.
But maybe many, many years ago, thousands of years ago, women, Jewish women made an effort to wash themselves, where other women maybe didn't.
Right.
So I don't know, I feel like we were taught, this is me, probably wrong, but in my
No,
head, it makes
I
sense.
could see, this is the misconception out there. So I see why you're saying this. And it is something, when you wash your hands, like, for example, like during COVID, everyone was washing their hands so many times, right? Well, it didn't matter. It didn't. Some people say it did help, but it's interesting. It wasn't a new thing for us. We wash our hands when we wake up. We wash our hands after we go to the bathroom. We wash our hands before we eat bread. There's so many ritual times that we are washing our hands. It's always served us well. Okay, but that's not why we're washing it. We're literally, when we wash our hands in the morning, we are as if we were in temple times. The kior, that wash basin at the entrance to the temple, to this, the made out of the mirrors from the women in Egypt, right? Before you went in, you would wash your hands, you would wash your feet to prepare yourself spiritually. You're literally elevating yourself to now serve. So when we start our day, we do that ritual to be like, okay, God, what's this day going to be like? I'm ready to serve you.
So we benefit from it.
We do.
So that's maybe.
So that is
maybe I should
a
rephrase
concept.
it. Maybe I should rephrase it. Maybe what do we benefit from learning
Okay,
from
so-
the Torah? How do we,
so-
as human
So
beings?
I want you to learn these two words, the most beautiful two words. It's called ta'amei ha-mitzvot, which means the taste is so good of a mitzvah, that there are benefits. There's so many benefits for, let's say, why do circumcisions happen on the 8th day? That's the mitzvah. Happens to be that it coincides with the highest, antibodies and the blood clotting, literally, if
Right.
it's done on the 8th day,
That's
it's
what I would.
that's when you say, wow, I love it when God and science and psychology, everything meets. It's like, but that's not why we're doing it on the 8th day. We're doing it on the 8th day because God told us to. We're going to the mikvah because God told us to. Not because it's good for your marriage, it's good for boredom in the bedroom, it's good for all the things. It's also medically speaking, I have an article at home written by gynecologists and all these top professors talking about how the alkaline, the pH balance of a woman's vagina for those 12 days, right, for her period and the days afterwards, is actually, she's more susceptible to infection during those days. It's actually good for her to heal completely after the lining sheds until she could be in an intimate relationship. I love reading these things, but that's not why I'm doing it. I believe in God. He created the world, he created us, and he gave us 613 mitzvot, which mitzvah it's a pathway to him. And the mitzvot are supposed to elevate us and they're supposed to make us rejoice. Like it's supposed to work together. So I mean, I love what you're bringing up. It's so true. Like sometimes you're like, oh, that, maybe that's why. But that's just the ta'am, the reach, it smells so good because when you do the right thing and you're doing something godly, we're talking about being holy. Like you do something holy, you give charity, usually that would hurt you. You're gonna you're gonna be left with less money. That would hurt you. But when you're doing something that's a mitzvah, it's supposed to connect you forevermore. So I'm not quite sure, like, we could talk more about it because there are the benefits, but the benefits are a side point.
So that's what I meant to, I guess, say half an hour ago.
Okay, sorry.
Next class.
The benefits of it, because I see a lot of it, the benefits from what we learn, what is given to us, benefits to humanity, because.
Yes. I mean,
In a
do
way.
you know that there's a study done about like the happiness index? Have you ever read? So they said, who are the happiest people in the world? Like, who are these individuals? I don't know how they studied it.
Yeah.
And the happiest person is someone that's leading a Torah life. Right? Is it, what they were like,
No, there was something about countries, not to.
yeah, Israel is the highest happiness. Israel, like, but two different studies, one about individuals. There's something, Rabbi Tatz, he says, what is happiness? We spoke about this last week with the weight trainer or someone giving birth. Like you could be in so much pain at that moment, or it could be uncomfortable or hard. And yet you've never been in such a moment of feeling like you're doing, because Rabbi Tatz says happiness is doing what you're supposed to be doing, even no matter how it makes you feel in the moment. There's a purpose to it. When Angie and Ellen were schlepping tables and setting up this place and moving things out of the way and working for hours and hours, but their mission of bringing more to L'chaim Center was in the forefront of their eyes. Those tables were light. Like they didn't feel like I'm assuming, right? They had some good helpers. They made it fun. It felt fun. It felt good. It's like, imagine a young woman gets engaged and her groom, her chatan, gives her like a 4-carat ring. You're never gonna have that woman say like, oh my gosh, it's so heavy. Like it's so heavy, I have to like schlep around it. No. Right? So that's the analogy for the mitzvah. A mitzvah is supposed to be so enjoyable and it's supposed to carry us. That we're supposed to look at a mitzvah like a diamond. It shouldn't be heavy. And if it feels heavy, that means maybe we're not doing it right. Maybe we need to reevaluate how we do it or how we're looking at it. Okay, I think we're gonna call time for today.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. We'll see you, I guess. Oh, we'll see you in a couple weeks. Well, I'll see you guys on Saturday for Parsha Pearls. 10:45, whoever's coming, and then I'll put up the schedule for the next couple weeks, because next week I'm assuming we're not going to have class here because July 4th, and then I'm gone for 2 Tuesdays. I'm going to be in it. So, but Gadi will be here. Do you guys have a topic that you want to learn with Gadi for those 2 weeks that I'm away?
Yeah.
What'd you say?
Ask the rabbi.
Do you want to do an Ask the Rabbi?
Ask the rabbi, yeah.
You want to do that?
It's been a long time.
Okay, happy to. Do you guys want to do that, or do you want to like? I feel like Gadi can teach topics that I can't.
Take it up stuff, like once a year.
tequila a few months ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was that?
Something,
Yeah.
something about your relationship, something about your relationship.
Oh, right.
Something about-
Right. Look at me when.
I mean, this putting this past.
It was in
Do you guys? Tonight.
Well, this is amazing. But their plans are really big. You should just- we just say something about the women and 25.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know yet.
Bye, Melissa.